For a while, I've had a lot of buzz about a book called The Workplace Chronicles, and today I'm very happy to host the author Cavin Apodo. Karibu.
Thank you so much, Sofina. I'm glad to be here and talk about the Workplace Chronicles.
So maybe for me, I know you because you are my friend,
Yeah.
but to the person watching us, who is Cavin?
So I would say Cavin by profession is a journalist. Career-wise, I'm a writer and a researcher. By passion, I'm passionate about the youth, and generally, I'm a student of life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so out of curiosity, at what point did you realize that you wanted to be a writer?
Well, to me, writing is like a talent. It's like a passion.
Okay.
This is one thing I do without any compulsion, you know. This is something I do out of love, out of that natural love. So it started back in primary school, where I would just scribble writings on a piece of paper, which would eventually get lost. I would start up again until I started active writing in 2017. I would do short blogs, you know, even for my friends. I would even do assignments for people. Yeah. And that was after I met Writers Guild of Kenya.
Workplace Chronicles. First, most authors usually say they go into a hiding when they're writing their books. So for you, I'd want to know what was the process, and maybe for how long did you write this book?
By the time I was writing this book, I had plenty of time. I wasn't going to work at that time because that was in the midst of the pandemic.
Okay,
Last
2020.
year, at the peak of the pandemic, between June and December 2020. So I would wake up, do the book, go relax, come back, do the book. And that is why I took the least time to do a book that feels like a research work, which it is. So I took only 7 months to do the book, to do the surveys, to do the research, and compile the whole work.
And I really want to know, because I've read snippets of this book, and I'll be reading a little bit of a line.
Right.
But I'm interested to know what inspired you to write this.
Having worked in so many places of work, having worked with so many people, I noticed like there was a miss in the workplace or in the places of work and in the labor industry at large, you know. So that is what inspired me, and the fact that I'm a researcher, and then this basically was out of experience and career, you know. So having worked in those places, I had the experience as an employee. Having started so many initiatives, I have the experience. So I brought in the experience and the career, and I put them together.
And allow me to just read something in here on page 22. And this really spoke to me because it was a reality that I also experienced.
All right.
It says, there were people who had lost their jobs or had their salaries delayed or reduced by half. The same people had their children taken out of school, and the level of dependency doubled on them. But what I like about this is you continue and say, the people who had lost their jobs had to rethink and strategize for survival and a sustainable future. So I'll leave it at that so that our listener can just go and grab the book.
Yeah, sure.
But Workplace Chronicles, that title, how did it come about?
Now, having talked about the workplace, I was just trying to talk about the things that are happening within the workplace and the labor industry. I know you cannot mention the workplace without mentioning the labor industry.
It's true.
Because they go hand in hand. Employers get their employees from the labor market, right? So first I started by looking into the major pandemic, I would say, the youth unemployment. So many youth are graduating every year.
It's true.
And their hope is to get someone who will employ them. Now I just tried to challenge them how they can use the internet and the modern technology, social media, and the resources they have. Those are the phones, the internet, or the bundles, you know.
You should say that louder.
Yeah, bundles.
Yeah.
To employ themselves, to create a portfolio for themselves, you know. This is the time that when you're a graduate of, let's say, accounting,
Yes.
you go and use the internet. Tell us the facts about accounting that someone like a journalist like me could not be known.
Yes, it's
you know.
true. Yeah.
Tell us, do that. Write articles, post videos or tutorials, short ones. Tell us, this is all it takes to become an accountant, you know.
Yeah.
So I am challenging the youth to try and use the modern technology to curb youth unemployment.
Okay.
Also, another thing which is the major is the employee. Ensuring employee well-being in the place of work. And this is a challenge to the employees and to the employers alike. For example, which is a major threat in the places of work, is the mental health. So I'm trying to challenge both employees and employers to try and find techniques, and I've also suggested some techniques that can be employed just to ensure that we work on the mental health condition, because that way the employees can be productive enough to drive revenue for the companies. Yeah. Another thing, I'm not going to mention all the topics within the book, but another notable thing is the future of work.
Yes.
Like, the big question there is, are we ready as Africa
for
the future of work, you know?
Is the answer in here?
Yeah, the answer is kind of in here, but it's kind of trying to suggest ways through which we can get ready for the future of work, so that we don't have a gap.
Yes.
A gap in the future.
Okay.
You know?
Yes.
Or a shortage of labor.
It's true. It's very true, especially in Africa.
In Africa.
Because now everything is getting automated,
Yeah.
but we're still in the economy of, using our hands.
Yeah, so that is why I've suggested a number of things, like incorporating technology, incorporating machine learning, things like such into our curriculum. So that you get used to these things at an early age. So that you can use these to employ yourself before you get an employer, you know. Yeah. So those are basically just some of the topics that are covered within this book that I believe are contemporary today, tomorrow, and even the day after tomorrow.
It's true.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, so I heard you mention the youth, I heard you mention employers and employees. So maybe you can give us an overview of the target that you have, the target audience for this book.
So this book, I would say basically this book targets young professionals.
Okay.
This book targets the students, especially college students who are hoping to graduate into the job market in the near future.
Yes.
This book targets the employees who already have their works. This book also targets the employers.
So first, I want to know, and don't say yourself, who is your favorite author?
Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Yeah.
Why?
First, he's African. Second, is telling our story as Africans.
And it's interesting, right here in my hands I have your book, and there's a young person seated, because this show is watched mostly by young people, and he says, one day I also want to have a book. So what advice would you give them, and where would you tell them to start?
Not necessarily, they don't have to necessarily be young. I'll say that again. You can start writing at the age of 60. Doesn't matter. There is no harm in that, you know. But one thing I would say is that anyone who is dreaming to become a writer, you just start writing, you know. Don't worry about your grammar. Don't worry about your spelling errors, you know. Write and leave that for the editor, because it is their role to polish. And don't even worry about actually where will I get the money to publish. You just write.
Having been in the industry, especially in this country, maybe can you point out something that you think is a miss or can be improved?
Yeah, sure. There are so many misses that we haven't gotten yet, right, as an industry. I would say editing, kidogo, it's not where it should be.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be looked into.
Okay.
We should up our game as editors, just to ensure that we do some content that meet the global standard. And then marketing. We writers do our marketing too professionally. You know?
Okay.
Not everything has to be done the professional way. It depends with the environment. It depends with the audience.
Okay.
Like, who are you selling to? You know?
Yeah.
You cannot go to address, maybe I would say, the youth in a necktie, in a coat.
So you adopt to the environment.
Yeah, you
and
adopt
the
to the
audience.
environment and the audience.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically I would say editing and marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, because I've been part of your journey for a while, you started with the blogs, now you have a book.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, you know, as a writer, as Cavin, what does the future look like for you?
I would say the future is luminous. Not only for Cavin, but for the upcoming writers. Of course, we have started a program, or we had started a program called Doyen. Now, Doyen, I don't know, it's an English word. It's a vocabulary. Doyen is someone who is respected in a certain field.
Alright.
So if you're a writer and you've written so many books, so I would say Ngugi wa Thiong'o is a doyen in the writing industry.
Yes.
He's a doyen writer. So we have Doyen Writers Mentorship Program. Has been running for 2 years now. So that is one thing we want to measure on. I as Cavin, plus other like-minded people. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And the final question, Cavin.
Yeah.
If you're not writing, what would we find you doing?
I would be lying to say I spend it with my spouse. I don't have a spouse. But yes, I play FIFA. I play FIFA.
We should arrange a game. I'm very good.
Really?
I score at least 2 goals.
Really?
Yes.
There is a PlayStation up here. We'll make a date for that. We'll make a date for that. And which is your favorite team?
Manchester United.
Disgusting. But anyway, it's okay.
Alright, so thank you so much for joining us. We are very delighted to have hosted you. Okay. And I think to everyone who's been able to watch us, the book is Workplace Chronicles. And follow Cavin on his social media pages. You can acquire it at 999 shillings only. Thank you all, and I'll tell you the results of the game.
Alright.